Imagine owning a piece of land so enormous that it could change the size of your empire forever. Now imagine selling it to another country for just $7.2 million. That is exactly what Russia did. In 1867, Russia sold Alaska to the United States. Today, Alaska is America's largest state, covering more than 500,000 square miles. It contains enormous natural resources, including oil, gold, natural gas, forests, and fisheries. So why would Russia sell it? Was Russia desperate for money? Did it believe Alaska was worthless? Or was there a much bigger strategic reason behind the deal? The answer begins thousands of miles away from Alaska, in the Russian Empire. During the 18th century, Russian explorers and traders began moving across the Bering Strait into Alaska. Russian hunters were especially interested in sea otter fur. The animals were valuable, and their thick fur could be sold for enormous profits in international markets. Over time, Russia established trading posts and small settlements along Alaska's coastline. But Alaska was a very different kind of territory. From the lands Russia controlled closer to Europe, it was enormous, remote, cold, and extremely difficult to reach. The Russian government had to supply its settlements across thousands of miles of ocean and wilderness, and Russia never developed a huge population in Alaska. Instead, the territory remained sparsely populated, with Russian settlements surrounded by indigenous communities that had lived there for thousands of years. For a while, the fur trade made Alaska valuable, but then Russia faced a much bigger problem: Britain. During the 19th century, the Russian Empire and the British Empire were competing for influence across the world. This rivalry became especially dangerous during the Crimean War. From 1853 to 1856, Russia fought an alliance that included Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire. The war exposed weaknesses in the Russian Empire, and it forced Russian leaders to think seriously about territories that were difficult to defend. Alaska was one of them. Imagine what would happen if Russia went to war with Britain again. Britain already controlled enormous territories in North America through British Canada. If Britain attacked Alaska, Russia would have a serious problem. The territory was thousands of miles away from Russia's main population centers. Russia had no easy way to send a large army there, and Britain had a powerful navy. So Russian leaders began thinking about a strange possibility. Maybe Alaska was safer in American hands than in Russian hands. Because if Russia sold Alaska to the United States, Britain would have a much harder time taking it. There was another problem. Alaska was becoming less profitable for Russia. The sea otter population had been heavily hunted, reducing the value of the fur trade. Maintaining distant settlements was expensive, and Russia had recently gone through an extremely expensive war, so Alaska was no longer the easy source of wealth that Russian traders had once imagined. Then came the idea of selling it. Russia approached the United States, and America was interested. At the time, the United States had just gone through the Civil War. The country was expanding westward and becoming increasingly interested in the Pacific. For American Secretary of State William H. Seward, acquiring Alaska offered something much bigger than land. It could give the United States a strategic position in the North Pacific. It could also expand America's access to natural resources and trade routes. Negotiations moved quickly. On March 30th, 1867, Russia and the United States agreed on a price: $7.2 million. That works out to roughly 2 cents per acre. On October 18th, 1867, the transfer officially took place. The Russian flag came down, the American flag went up, and an enormous Russian territory became part of the United States. But here is where the story gets interesting. Many Americans initially thought the purchase was ridiculous. Newspapers and critics mocked the deal. Some called Alaska a frozen wasteland. The purchase was associated with Secretary of State William Seward, and critics used terms like Seward's folly to describe it. They believed America had spent millions of dollars on a remote, frozen territory with little practical value. But they were wrong, because Alaska was hiding something: gold. In the late 19th century, major gold discoveries transformed Alaska and the neighboring Yukon region. Thousands of people rushed north, searching for wealth. Towns grew, trade increased, and Alaska suddenly looked very different. But gold was only the beginning. Over the following decades, Alaska's enormous natural resources became increasingly important. Its forests supported industries. Its fisheries became highly valuable, and eventually, Alaska's oil reserves would become one of its greatest strategic assets. The same territory that some Americans had mocked as a frozen wasteland became one of the most resource-rich parts of the United States, and Russia had sold it for $7.2 million. But was the sale actually a terrible mistake? Not necessarily. Russia had legitimate strategic reasons. Alaska was extremely difficult to defend. Britain was a powerful rival. Russia feared losing the territory in a future war without receiving anything in return. Selling Alaska to the United States also strengthened the relationship between Russia and America at a time when both countries had reasons to cooperate against British influence. So Russia was not simply throwing away useless land, it was making a strategic calculation. The problem was that Russia could not know what Alaska would eventually become. It could not predict the gold rushes. It could not predict the discovery of massive oil reserves. And it certainly could not predict that Alaska would eventually become America's largest state and an important military and economic region. The United States, meanwhile, made one of the most controversial purchases in its history. At the time, many people thought America had wasted its money, but history changed the meaning of that $7.2 million. Russia saw a remote territory that was expensive to defend. America saw a strategic opportunity, and decades later, Alaska revealed its real value. So the story of Alaska is not simply about Russia selling land to America. It is a story about distance, empire, military strategy, natural resources, and one decision whose true value could only be understood generations later. Russia sold Alaska because it feared losing it. America bought Alaska because it believed it could become valuable. And history eventually showed just how valuable it really was.